Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me at the back? Yes? No? I can turn this up. Okay, or I will. Is that any better? Okay. Good evening, everyone, and thank you all for joining us tonight with the School of Social Science Hall Annual Lecture of 2025. It's great to see such a vibrant gathering tonight. Our esteemed guests, dedicated colleagues, enthusiastic students, proud alumni, and everyone who shares our fascination with the rich tapestry of archaeological discovery. I'm Linda Cheshire, and I'm the head of School of Social Science, and I've got the pleasure of serving as your host this evening. This marks my third year in the role of hosting the Hall Annual Lecture, and I must say that it's one of the more rewarding aspects of leading our school, particularly for someone like me who's a sociologist and who only gets to explore the captivating world of archaeology through presentations such as this and through conversations with my colleagues. I'm learning a lot. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the St. Lucia lands where we gather tonight, recognising their enduring spiritual and cultural connections to country. I pay my respects to their ancestors and descendants and honour their ongoing and continuous contributions to knowledge systems, scholarship and society at every level. I extend a special welcome to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in the room today, as well as First Nations people from elsewhere around the world who have joined our gathering. I also invite us all to pause and reflect on the safety and security we enjoy this evening while holding in our hearts our fellow citizens who face the devastation of war, displacement, hunger, and profound loss. Our thoughts extend to those people and to their loved ones worldwide who live with fear and uncertainty, often unable to maintain contact with those they hold dear. As someone who approaches the world through a sociological lens, I find these archaeological gatherings particularly enriching. It exemplifies what makes us so rich and special and wonderful as a School of Social Science at the University of Queensland. That's what makes us distinctive, our ability to weave together from diverse disciplines, theoretical frameworks and ways of knowing to illuminate how societies have functioned across time and how they might evolve. We examine not only what's worked in the past, but critically assess what has failed to serve all members of our communities. This mission drives both our educational commitment to nurturing thoughtful, engaged graduates dedicated to positive change and our research partnerships with the communities we've got the privilege to work with. The Hall Public Lecture stands as one of the school's premier events, consistently drawing remarkable speakers and deeply engaged audiences, and it's so nice to see so many familiar faces here tonight and a really large turnout on a Friday night to boot, so thank you for coming. Tonight promises to uphold the excellent tradition that we've come to expect of the Hall Annual Lecture. The evening's success reflects the contributions of many dedicated individuals, several of whom I'd like to recognise. First is our distinguished speaker, Dr. Jackson Njau, who you'll meet shortly. Second is Jay Hall himself, whose profound impact on UQ archaeology inspired this enduring tribute. Jay sent his regrets last night to say that he's unable to come this year, but he remains very much in our thoughts and appreciation. I'd also like to thank our archaeology team, and in particular, Professor Michael Westerway, for coming up with the inspired idea of bringing Jackson here today. So thank you for coming so far to give this lecture today. Finally, I must acknowledge the exceptional work of our school Executive Support Officer, Julia Mickle-Clark, and Faculty Marketing Engagement Officer, Olivia Brown. They constantly come up trumps when it comes to organising this. I also wish to extend our heartfelt gratitude to the Everick Heritage and the Robbins family, who've generously sponsored the Hall Public Lecture since 2018. Their support extends beyond this event. They provided career opportunities to our countless graduates, as have many of our cultural heritage organisations in Brisbane. But they've also been instrumental partners in our efforts to expand Indigenous participation in education in archaeology and cultural heritage. So I know that Tim is here tonight, so thank you again, Tim, for your support. I now have the honour of welcoming our Vice-Chancellor and President of the University, Professor Debbie Terry Acey, who will formally introduce our guest speaker. Thank you, Debbie.
Now, hopefully everyone can hear me. Is that all working? I can see some nods up there. That's good. So thank you very much, Linda. And can I too begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands on which we're meeting here this evening and paying my respects and our respects to elders past, present and emerging. I'd also like to acknowledge, obviously, this evening's guest lecturer, Associate Professor Jackson Njau, UQ colleagues, distinguished guests, alumni, and everyone who has joined us here this evening. It is my great pleasure to welcome you all to the 2025 Hall Annual Lecture. As Linda has said, this lecture is named in honour of the founder of UQ's archaeology program, Associate Professor Jay Hall. Jay devoted 30 years to building and leading the UQ archaeology program, and in his retirement in 2007, he didn't just leave the university and do other things. He has continued to obviously share his passion for the hidden secrets of the past. And although he can't make it this evening, rest assured his influence on the school and the field of archaeology continues right across Australia and more broadly. Now, for the past 18 years, the Hall Annual Lecture has brought preeminent scholars to our university to share their latest archaeological finds and historical insights. It's also been a means by which we celebrate great past discoveries and honour the inquisitive minds and many hands that made these discoveries possible. And before I introduce tonight's speaker, I'd like to pay tribute to one of UQ's own, the late Professor Raymond Dart, who in 1914 became the very first person to graduate from our university with an honours degree. In the late 1800s, actually, Professor Dart's extended family owned much of the land on which our St Lucia campus stands today, running Dart's sugar mill from this site. But more importantly, Professor Raymond Dart made one of the greatest discoveries in human origins research in the 20th century while working as a university professor in Johannesburg. This year marks the 100th anniversary of the publication in Nature of his seminal paper on the Tong child fossil, widely referred to as the ape man from South Africa. His discovery of the skull was a huge leap forward in our understanding of human evolution. It was so significant, in fact, that it was included in Science magazine's list of 20 discoveries that changed our lives, alongside nuclear fission, DNA, the computer, and the contraceptive pill. But when it was originally published a century ago, in 1925, Professor Dart's work was met with heavy resistance from the scientific establishment because it challenged the validity of an earlier discovery of the so-called Piltdown man. Many criticised his credentials, even his writing style, and dismissed his hypothesis that the African continent was at the centre of the story of humanity. But of course, it transpired that Professor Dart was correct, as Charles Darwin had predicted, and the Piltdown fossil was eventually proven to be a hoax. And so began a centuries-long long journey of discovery. Now, here at UQ, we're immensely proud that one of the earliest graduates of our university, Raymond Dart, went on to make the seminal contribution to our understanding of the origin of our species. Earlier today, we jointly hosted an academic seminar with the Royal Historical Society of Queensland on the importance of the Tong child fossil, bringing together world authorities on archaeology, anthropology and history. And this evening, the fascinating conversation will continue. So it's now my great pleasure to welcome our guest speaker, Dr. Jackson Njau. He's an associate professor in the Department of Earth and Atmospheric Sciences at Indiana University. We were just reflecting, there's another great link that the previous president of Indiana University, Michael Robbie, did his arts degree here at the University of Queensland and went on to have a huge impact. Yeah, hired you and many other people. So there are many links tonight. But obviously, Dr. Jackson is a he's not only an associate professor in the Department of Earth and Atmospheric Sciences at Indiana University, he's a research associate at the Stone Age Institute and president of the East African Association of Palaeoanthropology and Palaeontology. Dr. Njau spoke at this morning's seminar, and he and UQ's Michael Westerway will chair a session on DART's contribution at the World Archaeology Congress in Darwin next week. So following in DART's very careful footsteps, Dr. Njau has made major discoveries of his own in Africa, worthy of the world's undivided attention and ours this evening. He made headlines in the Australian media a few months ago. The ABC reported on his team's discovery of 27 bone tools in the Olduvai Gorge in Tanzania, an unexpected find. These artefacts are likely evidence that ancient human beings were crafting toolkits from animal bone rather than stone 1.5 million years ago. This is truly remarkable because, according to Dr. Njau, it's very hard to shave flakes off bone to produce a tool with sharp edges. To think that our ancient ancestors had this skill and that their precise handiwork has been preserved for so long is breathtaking. This evening's lecture is titled Bones, Stones, Crocodiles and Origins, New Palaeoanthropological Evidence from Africa. Thank you, Associate Professor Njau, for sharing your research and for travelling to Brisbane to celebrate Professor Dart's incredible legacy and UQ's special place in the unfolding story of humankind. Please join me in welcoming Jackson to the stage. And yeah. We're multi-skilled here.
Hello, I hope you guys hear me. I should have put it up. All right, thank you. I would like to thank Professor David Terry and Linda and Michael Westerway and all the staff of the School of Social Sciences for inviting me tonight. And it's a great honor for me to stand in front of you for this talk, this colloquium of J Hall annual lecture. Also, I'm grateful that some of the colleagues we were together in the colloquium this morning, Raymond Dutt are here, and some of the friends, all the friends also. I met some of you, thank you for coming, and the students as well for being here. My talk, as Professor Debbie say about, I think the title's already, it's Bones, it's Tools and Crocodiles. I would like to start by a brief outline of this talk tonight. And it's include because we're celebrating the centennial of Raymond Dutt, it's opened up a really new path for paleoanthropological research in Africa. So I'll introduce that, including some of the prominent discoveries in Africa. And I'll discuss also some of the transformative research approaches or methods which we are using today to develop where people like Ramon Dutt left in this field. And I'll discuss a little bit about a shift, paradigm shift from the mega site to landscape archaeology approach, and focusing at Olduvai Gorge in Tanzania, where I've been working since when I was a graduate student until today, co-directing multiple projects ever since. And then I'll introduce the role of actualistic studies or experimental studies in understanding the behavior of our ancestors who we are finding their bones or remains at Olduvai Gorge, and over the last 2 million years ago. And one of my passion also is to build the local capacity, especially in the paleoanthropology and archaeological research and training in Tanzania through collaborative research there. Now, starting, I was born and raised here in Moshi, Kilimanjaro. This is where I went for my primary school and secondary school before I moved on to Dar es Salaam, is the capital of Tanzania, for doing my bachelor in archaeology. And then I worked as a curator at the National Museum of Tanzania before I went on for graduate school at Rutgers University in New Jersey. And then later, I moved on to a postdoc at University of California, Berkeley, and later came to Indiana University as an assistant professor and also a research affiliate at the Stone Age Institute. I will begin by this statement here by Charles Darwin, who speculated that Africa is the birthplace of our earliest ancestors. And he predicted that the oldest antiquity or the great antiquities of our humanity will be found in Africa in terms of archaeological finds, fossils, and stone tools. But why did he think so? Why did he think Africa would be the best, will be the place where we'll find our ancestors or the history of ourselves? It's because through his voyages and travel and reading, he figured out that he realized the great ape like gorilla and chimpanzee were found, bonobo, they were mainly found in Africa. And and he figured out also, he realized the close similarities in terms of anatomy, physiology, behavior, and even molecular genetics or molecular data. There's a close relationship or similarity between the great ape and ourselves. However, you cannot just take this easily without thinking, again, the main question here in anthropology or biological anthropology is the antiquity or the roots of human distinctiveness. Although we are very, very similar, especially molecular genetics, which is about 98 or 99%, we still, there are major differences, and that is what most of the students here and everywhere else been studying, some of that taking years to understand. But however, one of the major things is locomotion behavior, and between chimpanzee and early humans, which we'll refer here as hominins, the tribe which we belong to. And another thing is ability to make tools. We are considered as, including our anatomy, our hands are free. Our digits are free. We can manipulate tools. We have opposable thumb to all tools. However, chimps also, they can try to do that, mimic those kind of a behavior, but it doesn't pass through the next generation. One of the major things which a lot of scientists, they refer were the brain size. Anything of fossils remains, the major difference between us and ape is that we have a bigger brain, all right? And while chimpanzee, the brain size, which can be measured in terms of cubic centimeters, was very, very small comparing to ours. So in order for hominid or any hominin or specimen to be a hominid, it has to attain this anatomy. Another thing is meat-eating behavior, and that usually came together in terms of archaeological record the same time with ability to make tools. And speech is and language, ability to make speech and speak, and language is another thing which distinguishes us from our closest relatives, apes, bonobos, and gorilla. Now, if we go in order to understand now the roots of these differences, we can go to the fossil record. And on the y-axis here, it's date. Y-axis is the date here. In terms of MA, it's 1 million years. And then you can see here 7 million, that's the oldest fossil material that has been ever found. And it's around this time, probably older than 7 million. That is when maybe the common ancestor between the chimps and ourselves may be split, okay? And we know that because of the fossil record. And one of the major differences in terms of anatomy and locomotion is we walk on 2 legs, which is called bipedalism, and our closest relative, they're still knuckle walking. Through all these millions of years, we haven't found any fossils suggesting that they were trying to evolve through 2 legs. Probably it was not beneficial to them. That's why they stay until today. Now, if you look at the fossil record, within this human lineage, we are not ourselves. We are Homo sapiens, and we are not ourselves. There's these extinct hominins, which are represented by Sahelanthropus, Dipithecus, Australopithecus, and Paranthropus. These are pre-Homo hominids. And all of this, they suggest that they walk on 2 legs, right? And you can see that now the antiquity of bipedalism or walking on upright like ourselves, it's very, very old. It's about 7 million years old. We haven't found any fossils which is beyond that. And now you can see other descendants, not direct descendants of this pre-Homo, but here you can see Homo habilis, Homo erectus, Homo neanderthal, including ourselves. We are seeing that all of these are characterized by enlarged brain and tool making and meat eating, and speech language came much later during probably Homo neanderthal or before that. And so all of these they have the main trait here is the bipedal gait or bipedalism. And the large brain came later. So bipedalism is one of the character that explain the differences between chimpanzee and humans. All of this cast here represents some of the hominids. I'm going to talk later, but some of the characteristics that we figured out these guys were walking on 2 legs in the position of the backbone here. It's anterior placed comparing to chimpanzee. We don't have it here, which this, the hole that the backbone goes through, it's more posteriorly placed like here. That's why they walk on 2 legs. So any kind of fossil like this hominid, they have to have this anteriorly placed. That's my timing? Okay, all right. That's gonna be so fast, all right. However, now we see all of this. These are genus and species that, we can see them, we can reconstruct all this kind of bush tree-like. A bush tree like this one is because we don't have much fossils to tell exactly which hominid probably was ancestor of, or if there's any strong indication that there was one lineage that lead to Homo sapien today. So you can see here, there's no traditionally like having like Chadensis leading all the way to Homo sapiens. It's all these kind of branches. One go, it's depending on the discovery of these hominid species or specimens. Now, if you look at this x-axis here, it's a time, and all of these are different species and genera. And as we celebrate now this centenary of Darwin discovery of town child, this is the one here in circle. It's Australopithecus africanus, which Raymond Dutt, alumni here at UQ, described this 100 years ago. Actually, today, this year, 2025, this 100 years ago, this is when this specimen or description of this holotype was published in Nature. Now, just to give you the location of this place, Taung is just one of the local area here, village in South Africa. And this is a famous, textbook kind of map showing where major fossil remains are coming from. And technically Africa, again, if you go here, you'll see all of these hominins or major fossil remains. All of these are coming from Africa, as Darwin suggested. So here, this is the location how, this is the Rift Valley, the Eastern African Rift System. You can see all these dots here, or squares, are the sites where the hominids are coming today. But all they started from here, and most of these South African sites, most of them are found from the caves, while these along the East African rift system are in open land, open sites system. So it's a different kind of environments in terms of preservation and also the hominid adaptation. Now, this is Raymond Dutt here, as most of you have already heard this week and this symposium today, when he published this find, just show you. This, the Australopithecus africanus, the meaning of southern ape from Africa. And later, 35 years after this publication of Australopithecus africanus, this famous archaeologist, Drs. Louis Leakey and his wife, Mary Leakey, they discovered yet another important hominid fossils, but this time from Eastern Africa here. Of course, once they found it, this was the big guy comparing to this one here. And remember, this still have been challenged during that time because, everybody want to find early humans from Europe. It's a Eurocentric kind of discipline. So this was already challenged, despite of the position of foramen magnum, teeth look like humans, but very, very small brain. Now, Leakey found this big guy, okay? This is clearly hominid. However, you can see the features are very, very different. Okay, this is very robust. It has very robust area of muscle attachment for chewing, probably, mastication, and also huge teeth. Look at that. Big, big, big teeth, okay? But again, small brain like ape, suggesting that probably bipedalism preceded the enlarged brain. But that was not the school of thought at that time. You got to have a larger brain first, okay? So Leakey, he has to take this to Raymond Dutt to discuss with him, okay, what do you think? Totally different, you think that, okay, this is different from Africanus, but also probably it will be Australopithecus africanus, but he think that probably the genus could be Australopithecus. But at the same time, in South Africa, there are many other finds like these big guys, but they're called Australopithecus robustus. They have, small brain, but they were not Africanus. And Leakey, he didn't agree that the Australopithecus africanus, robustus. So he termed he came up with his own species name, Zinjanthropus boisei. So Zinjanthropus means the eastern man, is different from the southern, ape man from South Africa. So he called it Australopithecus, Zinjanthropus boisei, which means, and the boisei was named after his benefactor. The guy was funding him, Charles Boyce, so in his honor. So that was the beginning now of exploration of more, because before that, South Africa, most of the sites, hominids were found in South Africa after that. This including Broom and his teams and other colleagues were finding a lot of this robust Australopithecus and some of the Homo later. But during this, after the discovery of this in 1959, most of the research now and the attention shift to East Africa. And of course, with Leakey's charismatic, lectures and passion in paleoanthropology, he was able to go around and fundraise, but it helped also to open up sites north of Tanzania and also south of Tanzania. And more sites like in Kenya, Ethiopia, they became very, very active, and older fossils were also found during that time. And so because of this also, new advances in archaeology or paleoanthropology, especially application of this radiometric dating or isotopic dating, he was able to convince some of the scientists from UC Berkeley, University of California, Berkeley, at Lawrence Lab, to come to Olduvai and take samples from Olduvai. And they date this skull to be 1.5 million years old, which means before they thought it was like 500,000 based on relative age technique. But after that, it tripled overnight, it tripled the age of this Zinjanthropus and the rocks where they're coming from. At that time, Australopithecus africanus was estimated to be 1 million. So to become the oldest fossils from Africa and probably the world. And also to increase public awareness of human evolution and paleoscience in Africa. Another thing about Olduvai during this time, they found tons of animal fossils as well, representing more than 20 type or holotype species at the site, including these big elephants with the tusk pointing downward, like they're known as Dinotherium. Animals like, they're like deer, but not, like these are short-necked giraffe, Calicothea, this, so different kind of animals. And in Africa, a lot of people who are finding new fossils in other sites, they use this type species to describe the new finding. And as a result also from Olduvai, Laetoli is very, very close to Olduvai Gorge, just south of it, 50 miles away. They found these footprints. And so over here, the 3.6 million years ago, so extend the age of this Olduvai Gorge, because these deposits are not exposed there because of geological processes. But you go further a little bit, you find this. And the significance of this find, in addition to become the oldest bipedal, evidence of bipedalism as a trace fossil, Laetoli LH18 is represent Laetoli hominid 18. This is a mandible that was used as a type specimen to describe this new species, which was coming from Ethiopia, discovered by Don Johansen, known as Australopithecus afarensis. But that was, and it's famous known as Lucy. That was, this find was mainly postcranial material, and by that time you require a cranium, due to the standard at that time, cranium material in order to define or describe a new species, right? Although we already know that even hominids like that, or Zinjanthropus, they still had a small brain, but still you need some kind of cranial dental material to describe. So they combine Laetoli, Tanzanian material, and the postcrania of Lucy material, 3,000 kilometers north, to come up with this new species, famous, known as Australopithecus afarensis. Now, I'd just like to give you quick geological setting of Olduvai because it's important for understanding why Olduvai is considered as, in terms of chronology, like a layer cake stratigraphy. And this is because of ability of geologists and other scientists to date this material that are coming from there. And this is Serengeti grass plains, for those you know, visit there. The site is these two gushes over here, this little gorge here, Olduvai Gorge, and their thickness is about only 100 meters, you know. So it's a very small area, about 25 kilometers, you know, in terms of length, and in terms of thickness is only 100 meters. And we are finding all this kind of material from there, including stone tools and fossils. And it's situated between, this is the Ngorongoro volcanic highlands. It's forming along the Rift Valley system, and this is Serengeti. And it's because of this, I'm gonna pull in this, let me see, these are volcanic, these are the age of these volcanoes here, form along these Ngorongoro volcanic islands. And because of the ashes erupted from these volcanoes, these sediments can be dated, using absolute age. Potassium argon, or today you can use argon dating methods. And you can see all of these, this is 2 million, 2.5. This is Ngorongoro crater. Before it blew up, about 2.5 million, probably was probably taller than Kilimanjaro today. And this one was responsible for Laetoli footprints, which is 3.6. And today, there's still an active volcano there, very unusual. It's known as Ordonyo Lengai. It's still active, and its influence is very interesting and important because it's the ashes from here, the one maintain these Serengeti grass plains today, and which is accommodate millions of wildebeest migration every year and attractive to tourists. Now, this is the paleoenvironmental reconstruction of the Olduvai. It used to have a big lake there. This lake here is superimposed on the modern gorge. This is the modern gorge over there. And these stars, this is where most of the archaeological sites came from. It means in terms of geologically, they are described to come from lake margin or lake shore environments. And they concentrate along here in these points, the lake margin, where the gorge is exposed. And as I said, just within this, especially in this lake margin during that time, and within the 100 meters thick of the outcrop, we have the Leakeys were able to establish a very, very nice cultural history of the site. And cultural history means by studying the stone tools, beginning with industries in the early Stone Age. This is the age been defined for African archaeology: early Stone Age, Middle Stone Age, and later Stone Age. Or you can say Lower Paleolithic, Middle Paleolithic, and Upper Paleolithic. And for Leakeys, hand axes, Acheulean time period or industry was known before from Europe, but the Leakeys were able now to see the stone industries that preceded even Acheulean culture. And it was within this early Stone Age time period, which is about 2 million to 1.7. And if you look the hominid the same way, you have Homo habilis. These are the ones with a very, very small brain in terms of habilis. This one here, like that one, but it's larger than chimpanzee, most of the chimpanzee. So this is the oldest genus of our own, which was also found at Olduvai Gorge. And this is a type specimen for that. This is another OH24. It's another Homo habilis from there. And this was found in association or stratigraphically in the same time period with Oldowan culture. Oldowan was named after Oldupai, which is the local name of Olduvai today. It was anglicized to be Oldupai, and then the German called Olduvai, and then the British probably called Olduvai, and today people are going back to Oldupai. But Oldowan is after that name of local Saiso at the area. And then we find that Homo erectus, which was already known from Indonesia, from Java, in stratigraphically associated with Acheulean or hand axes, cleavers, picks, etc. And the early Homo sapiens are also associated with Middle Stone Age. So stratigraphy and stone tools and hominids and even fauna, if you're interested in fauna, that would be another topic, but they're all tied very, very closely. And people starting to believe, oh, the stratigraphy at Olduvai is like, it's a, kind of like layers in a cake. In a birthday party, you have these layers. It's more complicated than that, but for now, in introductory lecture like this, that's kind of a view people had until, before. And this just, show you some, the relationship between how the Acheulean evolved from older one to MSAs, the Middle Stone Age, and the later Stone Age. And you can see this Homo habilis here. That's the beginning of a large brain at Olduvai, and they coincided with evolution of older one industry or during the early Stone Age. Okay? And I put here boy's eye. This is Australopithecus boy's eye, because, again, this is a pre-Homo kind of hominids. Now, all this archaeological record at Olduvai Gorge indicates very, very important things, especially that time back then in the 60s, people were trying to understand the origin of our own behavior. So that's the reason, a lot of people there are trying to find archaeological material that can talk to us about the behavior of their ancestors. And things at Olduvai, which the Leakeys and their colleagues came up with to describe this early behavior based on the association of the concentration of bones and stone artifacts. We find those and broken up bones and stone artifacts. Probably that was the result or traces of early humans or early humans accumulation. So early humans accumulated these bones and stone tools. And also fossils with traces of butchery. These are cut marks on bones. So those was indirect trace that early humans probably were interested in, they were consuming these bones. So when you cut, you are using like a knife, you cut the flesh, you cut the meat off the bones, so you leave the trace marks like this one here. And folks, they've been doing this kind of studies back in the 80s. And the reason they were doing that, they were trying to understand that probably you can start explaining. And the fundamental issue was that probably this site represent the unit family, where the men or the hunters, probably they go out, hunt, kill the prey, and bring in food home to share with the families. And just like the hunter-gatherer communities living today, and women, they'll go out to gather plant resources and bring home. So they create this kind of idea that, this kind of early behavior was very, very old, about a million years. And it came up with this idea that this concentration of bones, stone, represent living sites or home base, campsite where humans probably live temporarily or permanent, just like today. You go somewhere, you camp, and the traces you leave behind, that tell us your behavior. And however, the oversight, of course, a lot of these bones contain tooth marking or bite marks from carnivores, okay? So how will you, within that assemblage, if it was a living floor, how can you explain about this carnivore activity as well? There are a lot. And Binford is the one who brought that this idea, and really, and people starting to think about new research about these early archaeological sites. And some of them some of the fossils like this contain both tooth marking, carnivore tooth marking, and butchery marks or cut marks, suggesting that probably carnivores were stealing food from early humans, or vice versa, early humans were stealing food from, were scavenging off the predator. And also presence of crocodile tooth marking. Okay, so these areas suggest that they're really, really nasty, not a good place for hominids to put their camps. Also, in addition, some of the hominids' bones, okay, they contain chewing, they are chewed by carnivores, and including, this is a holotype specimen, one of the type specimen of Homo habilis. This, we described it a couple of years ago, that if you look the original fossils probably was destroyed by leopard. Animal like leopard, this is a carnivore. When they kill, usually the predators are trying to get the tongue out. They end up chewing the jaws. And folks have been observing this for animals, what they do to the bones. And some of them, like this one, this is also type specimen. They're all old, this is Olduvai hominid 7. And another one is this talus here. This is the foot bone. The posterior part of this talar bone has these punctures which mimic, look like crocodiles. And this was, this bone was, described to articulate with this one here, although they have different numbers, they came different site, but anatomically, they probably came from one species. All right, so how to answer these questions? We moved to Olduvai Landscape Palaeoanthropology project, which I participated as a student, and later I became the co-director of the project. And the goal here was, instead of looking for these mega sites, we started to look laterally across the gorge. And we are picking up a single time period like this one here, the lower part of bed 2, which involve a single population, demographic like Homo habilis, older one material, and traced throughout the entire landscape. And within that, we started to notice areas where there were danger to hominids, including marshlands where contain crocodiles, or areas where they will butcher, not home bases, but they'll do this kind of activities very quickly, repeatedly, and probably folks may confuse those with home bases. And we could trace this, we follow this, and we select lower bed 2 because of the base of that is represented by Tuff 1F, which is laterally extensive across the gorge, and it's well dated. So we have been sampling only this time period above this stuff. This is a faulting here. You can see this is a lower bed 2. So if you know geology, you can just trace that because this is the displacement there. And this is a reconstruction of the gorge, superimposed on the modern gorge here. This is the lake, perennial lake, and archaeological sites were supposed to be here. And we sampled the entire, this method allowed us to sample from the mouth of the gorge all the way to the tail. It was different from the leakies where they only focus in this area. So this gave us a huge picture, the entire picture of the hominid activities, because they were walking around. They were not sitting in one site. And based on this data, we started to seeing that because of this data distribution of the archaeological material, probably these sites were not as rich as we thought to be, and they were distributed according to places where they were safe or not safe. We don't find material. And we started with a prediction based on our knowledge on semi-arid savanna ecosystem in Africa. So these sites like home bases we rule out because they are so dangerous, and also because of volcanism, the basin will be, several times will be covered by ashes from volcanic eruption along, from this area. Some of the areas are still active today. And some of the geologists who have been asked by Mary Leake, like Richard Hay, if you live today based on this interpretation, the geologists say, okay, what will this lake margin look like today? And this is modern analog. This is Lake Manyara, Lake Imagine. And the geologist, this Richard Hayes, said, okay, the site will be located here. If you zoom in, it's something like that. So we ask students when we go there, will you really put a base camp in a place like this? Because the geology is telling you that, isotopic studies telling you that, mineralogical studies telling you that it was something like this kind of mud flood. Of course, likely every student will say, oh yeah, I'll stand, this is a Rift Valley system up high. I'll stand up higher along the rift, and then I can look down. And if I see a carcass somewhere, I can just walk along the safe route and go and butcher that quickly and get away from this lake margin environment. And we found that archaeological record, there are tons of predators also, ancient predators, who were more capable than these Homo habilis or older one hominin, in terms of size, mobility, and also Homo habilis technology. Older one was very, very primitive technology. So there's no way you could have killed these kind of animals. And this led to a lot of experimental actualistic studies. And here you can see Leake himself starting to question some of those finds about especially cut marks, and was doing those kind of experiment himself. And a lot of people now starting to take over. Here, this is Nick Toth napping stone, trying to make stones like mimic how the old one did. And a lot of people did also cut marking, and this is a percussion mark how they break bones. Some of the bones were broken, probably were through people, early hominids trying to get marrow. Also, carnivores like hyenas, how they break bones, lions already being studied. And what's left was crocodiles, which I did study during my PhD thesis. And this paper was published by Michael here. I was co-authored with him, and following the sequences which I described during my studies of crocodiles. And I started to notice this kind of distinctive bite marks, different from mammalian carnivores, including this V-shaped marks, which look like cut marks, may mimic cut marks, and big punctures, which have never been seen from the mammalian carnivores, including this kind of a flake off percussions like that, flaking off bones from during the powerful impact of their jaws. And later, 2010, we invited Chris Brochu, is one of the prominent vertebrate paleontologists studying crocodiles. And we found that some of the crocodiles associated with this time period, Homo habilis, they are different from the modern Nile crocodiles. And we named that Crocodiles anthropophagus. Okay? And people, they were fascinated by this paper that ancient humans, monster crocodile, giant croc preyed on our ancestors, and they were huge. They were like 16 meters comparing to to today crocs. And I continued to study and starting to find some of even the internal microstriation of the tooth marking, of crocodiles, which really mimic a stone tool cut mark, and realize that probably crocodiles, they stand in the center between the kind of mimic both the stone tool cut, including percussion mark, and extreme tooth marking produced by carnivores like hyenas. And in this project also, we were able to find the Homo habilis, which actually is different from this one here. This is very small, tiny, but this was big, large face Homo habilis, which actually, this is Homo rhodophensis, which was missing the teeth here. And this OH65 really fit exactly very, very nicely to Homo rhodophensis. And probably Homo rhodophensis, maybe it was another form of Homo habilis, maybe due to, maybe a male Homo habilis. And we extend this, method to the upper bed too, with the Olduvai Gorge Archaeology Project. We published a bunch of papers here, a special issue in Journal of Human Evolution, including what Debbie was telling you today about the oldest bone tool, which we published in Nature recently. And again, I was happy to be interviewed by Jacinda from ABC News. I said, oh, this is Australia. Okay, I'll take the, the interview. Yeah. And now, currently, we are moving along to focus on paleo-environments and the paleoclimate, because a lot of scientists now, they think there's a link between environmental change and the climate change and human evolution. Olduvai is the best place to test this hypothesis. Small area, as I said, the outcrop exposure is very, very thin, only 100 meters. And we are seeing evolution of Homo habilis, Homo erectus, Homo sapiens in one place. And as I said here, this is where we're putting our coring in this depot center. We have to target the lake beds because that's where they preserve these organic compounds. And some of you can talk to me about more methods about this. But we have published preliminary results in a PaleoCube, which discuss about the results of this very, very interesting project. And the lakes are very, very important because they preserve well a lot of these organic compounds, like biomarkers. You can find them in these kind of lake deposits. And what we've learned that Olduvai Lake was bigger and more permanent and large, deeper than what we think today. Earlier, we thought it was just shallow saline alkaline lake, but now it was big, like Lake Eyasi, which is big, over there. And also, this method extend Olduvai record for another 200,000 years, which is very big for that area. Another thing, the final thing, what I say that I'm interested in building up the local capacity through collaborative research. Since I was becoming a co-director, I've been involved in building 2 labs, which is becoming very, very important for storage of the massive fossils and stone tools are coming there, and also enable to bring students to Olduvai through programs like field schools, which I've been doing over the last 10 years. So students from Tanzania and abroad, mostly United States. We haven't gotten students from Australia yet, but UK will be the start as the connection I've been telling you through that, Mark Robbie, and Australian Zoo. I didn't know all of those was UQ, I'm in Queensland, so it's a very, very good opportunity here to start that. So having said that, I would like to acknowledge the following institutions that I've been working with for many years and collaborating with very, very good people. And so I would like to end by saying thank you for coming, all the students, faculty, colleagues, and administration. And thank you again for inviting me here. I love Australia. And one thing, the first time I came here was 2007. It was a big mango conference. Michael invited me, and I gave a talk. It was in Victoria, right? It was very fascinating. Young footprints, I think 18,000. Maybe the dates has changed, and so it was really, really, mind blowing about Australia. And not that I knew Australia since when I was a little baby. Before I was born, my father came for a study here to Australia. Apparently, Tanzania was gaining independence in 1961, 1962, 63. Australia, through Commonwealth, starting to take the African scholars to come here to train them to take over position that were vacated by the British. So he came here for 1 year, and he spent a lot of time in Perth. So we know a lot pictures in Australia. But we didn't know where Australia is because we were looking in Europe and United States. Where is it? Where is it in the map? So when I came here the first time, that's really I started to fall in love with Australia. And my daughter, she's here now, University of Sydney, on exchange program. Because when I told her I could choose Australia, and now she fell in love with it, and she doesn't want to go back home. She said, yeah, thank you very much again.